Do driving lessons teach anyone to ride motorcycles? Not really. Unfortunately, that kind of lessons only prepares you to pass the driving exam. Riding a motorcycle is much more demanding than driving a car, because the rider needs to use his whole body to control it. Most things are learned with experience, but there are many other riding details that seem to be unknown. I'm saying this because it's what I have seen in many other videos on YouTube. My intention is not to criticize anyone. I just want to demonstrate several things that all motorcyclists should know. At the end of the video, you are not going to become the best rider in the world, but you'll probably be a much better one than you already are today. Welcome to Racer TV. I know that some of you will think that these are all basic issues, and that is perfectly understandable. But the fact is that these riding mistakes seem to be more common than we think. Most of them are more technical, and not so much about riding experience. So let's begin with using the Kickstarter. It seems like a very simple thing to do, but here's a bad example. As you heard, the internal Kickstarter mechanism is being subjected to an enormous effort of strength. This is usually the main cause of premature failures with Kickstarters. And here's the right way of doing it. Push down the Kickstarter slowly, until you feel the internal coupling with the engine. When you get to this point, it means that you can now use your strength, but only from this point forward. Another usual mistake that I have been seeing is to accelerate the engine when it's still cold. Engines have a lot of moving parts, and all of them were engineered to work with low tolerance clearances. This means that until the engine gets to the correct hot temperature, the engine will be under stress. Try to hear the difference between accelerating when the engine is hot and when it's cold. Very noticeable, isn't it? So, avoid to accelerate when the engine is cold, and you will save it from the symptoms of premature air. Speaking about accelerating, here's another situation in which we should not use the throttle. Every time you engage first gear, try to do it on low revs. This will not only save the gearbox, but also the drive chain. And here's one of the most common mistakes: a very long upshifting. This can be even worse in bigger engines. And that's why I will demonstrate it with my K1. It's very easy to find similar examples on YouTube. As you can see, the gear change is taking too long. This causes the engine to slow down the motorcycle, in a situation in which the speed should be increasing. On straight roads, it won't cause any serious trouble. But if you try it during a turning curve, it can be dangerous, because it will affect balance. So, here are two solutions to avoid this problem. One is being faster in changing gears. Simple, obvious, but effective. And two is to use the throttle. Sounds like the double clutch technique, But in reality, the goal is only to keep the engine running at the same revs. Notice how everything became smooth. This will not only save the clutch, but the riding will be much better. Especially for someone in the back. And here's the fifth mistake. This is definitely one of the most common mistakes. But let's just hear the sound of imperfection. I also tried it in the K1, and the bigger the motorcycle, the bigger the noise. One of the advantages of riding motorcycles is being able to use everything at the same time. Therefore, the usage of throttle during downshifting is also very recommendable. This is a technique known by rev matching. The main goal is to create smooth and fast gear changes. It may seem difficult to some beginners, but with some practice, it will become really easy, just like a second nature. You may already know some of the things I said, especially if you have a lot of experience. And for this reason, I decided to end this episode with a mysterious phenomenon, of which only a few know the real cause. The mystery of left side tire wear. This is one of those things that is relatively usual, but very hard to accept by our common sense. During many years, I've heard many funny theories about it. But the most common conclusion by any beginner is that the frame is warped or misaligned. But here's the truth about this mystery. It is due to the road inclination angle. If you drive on the right side of the road, this is how the tire will be in contact with the road. This is true to most local roads, and especially for highways, where the angle of the road profile is even bigger. Some say that riding in roundabouts is also one of the causes. And that's perfectly acceptable. But in terms of percentage, this becomes irrelevant compared with the distance covered in straight roads. So, I hope you enjoyed today's video. Sorry to all those fans, which are usually waiting for a new amazing Cafe Racer motorcycle. But I really believe that this content may be very useful for many others. Thank you for watching Racer TV. And as always, I hope to see you next week.